She didn't run because she was guilty. She ran because she knew the moment she stopped, someone would destroy everything she had left. And the saddest part, the world only saw her as the quiet ex-wife, the woman who signed the divorce papers without a single tear. Nobody knew what she was carrying, or who was hunting her. Before we get deeper, I need you to check something. If you're watching this from Atlanta, New York, Los Angeles, or wherever you are right now, look at the time on your screen. Because what happens next? You don't want to hear stories like this hours late. Subscribe so you don't miss the next twist. And if you're not subscribing yet, comment why. I'm curious. Now, back to the moment that changed her life. Araya's lungs burned as she pressed deeper into the shadows, trying to quiet the tremble in her breathing. The hallway felt endless, long, dim, and carved out of a world she was never meant to return to. She closed her eyes for 1 second, just one, hoping the panic would settle long enough for her thoughts to form something close to a plan. It didn't. Fear had its own pulse, and tonight it beat louder than her own. All she had wanted was silence. A clean divorce, a quiet life, a chance to exist without her past clawing at the edges of every new beginning. Instead, she found herself hiding again, the same way she did years before when her identity slipped through her fingers like sand. She whispered inside her own mind, "Stay calm. Stay invisible." But invisibility was no longer an option. Not after the photo with that heiress went viral. Araya Cole. A name that belonged to safety, routine, and the life she built in Atlanta. A life filled with muted colors, quiet movements, and working in a Buckhead law office where nobody asked too many questions. A name that kept her alive. But the world had just been reminded, loudly, that she didn't belong to that name alone. Her phone buzzed again. The sound sliced through the hallway like a blade. She glanced down at the message, the blue glow washing over her face. "You shouldn't have stepped into the spotlight." She tightened her grip on the phone, her nails digging into her palm. The message wasn't a threat, it was a promise. Whoever sent it knew exactly how much she hated attention, and exactly how much danger it dragged with it. Araya pushed away from the wall, forcing her feet to move. Every step felt like wading through memory, heavy, unwanted, suffocating. She didn't like remembering Brooklyn or the Blackwood family name or the man who shattered everything she believed about loyalty. Atlanta was supposed to be her reset, her refuge, the place where she rebuilt her life under a softer sky. But danger had found her anyway. It always did. Her divorce from Zayden Mercer should have been her cleanest escape. She slipped out of his world without a fight, without a single public meltdown, without revealing why she needed distance. People called it dignity. They said she handled heartbreak with grace. They praised her for walking away from a man of his status without turning it into a spectacle. But they didn't know the truth. She didn't leave him. She removed herself before her past could swallow him too. And yet, even as she hid in the hallway with fear chewing at her nerves, she felt him lingering in her mind. Zayden. The one person she didn't want thinking about her. The one person she still hoped thought about her anyway. She heard footsteps, slow, measured, coming closer. Araya swallowed, forcing the rising panic down. She scanned the corridor. No exits, no windows, no stairwell she could sprint toward. Only darkness ahead and danger behind. The footsteps grew closer. She whispered a single sentence under her breath, barely audible even to herself. "Not again. Please. Not again." Her phone vibrated once more. Another message appeared. "We found your trail. You won't outrun this twice." Araya felt the world tilt. Her vision blurred for a moment, memories smashing into the present. Nights she'd slept with her shoes on in case she needed to run. Mornings she woke up to the sound of breaking glass, the cold certainty that someone always knew her next move. The person behind her past wasn't just approaching from the hallway. They were already inside the city, already inside her life again, already dismantling the fragile peace she built. Araya forced herself forward, each step a battle. She reached the end of the hallway, fingers brushing a metal door. Her heartbeat rushed into her throat as she grabbed the handle. Locked. A quiet, broken sound escaped her. Not a sob, just the release of a truth she didn't want to face. Running wouldn't save her this time. Hiding wouldn't save her. Silence wouldn't save her. The only thing she had left was the secret she'd spent years burying. The secret someone was now trying to drag into the open. Her phone buzzed a final time, and she didn't have to look to know who the message came from. The person she feared most, the person she thought she escaped, the person whose shadow she carried everywhere. But she looked anyway. Aria Blackwood, come home. The hallway went still. Her breath caught. And for the first time in years, she felt her past reaching out with a grip she could no longer outrun. Zayden Mercer stared at the glowing headlines on his phone, each line more absurd than the last. Aria Cole spotted shopping with billionaire heiress Nova Ellington. Quiet divorcee suddenly re-enters the spotlight. Why? Mercer empire shaken after ex-wife resurfaces with rival family. He wasn't surprised people were talking. He was surprised by something else. The look in Aria's eyes in that photo. The world saw confidence. He saw fear. Fear he recognized instantly. Zayden leaned back in his chair, jaw tight. The weight of the Mercer penthouse pressing against him. The place was all glass and height, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the glittering stretch of Atlanta at night. A view most people would kill for. A view he barely noticed anymore. He zoomed in on the photo again. There she was, Aria, standing beside Nova Ellington outside a boutique on Peachtree Road. Nova was laughing, carefree. Aria wasn't. Her smile was tense, her shoulders stiff, and her eyes unfocused, scanning everything around her. It was the same expression she wore 3 years earlier when they first met. The same expression she wore during the nights she jolted awake, gasping for breath. The same expression she hid whenever he asked her about her family. A reaction like that didn't just appear. It came from history. A history she never shared. Zayden placed his phone on the table, letting silence settle across the room. It felt heavy tonight, heavier than usual. As if the truth he'd been dancing around during the entire marriage had finally taken shape. A truth he didn't want to admit. Aria didn't leave him because she stopped loving him. She left because something, or someone, forced her to. His mother, Darlene Mercer, shuffled into the living room. She wore a soft gray robe, her silver hair pulled back. The dim light softened her exhaustion, but he could still see the hint of illness in her movements. She noticed the tension instantly. She always did. "You're thinking about her again," she said quietly. He didn't deny it. Darlene sat beside him, her hands gentle, wise, layered with a lifetime of reading people deeper than they wanted to be read. "That girl didn't walk out on you," she murmured. "No woman leaves a marriage like that without a reason." Zayden rubbed a hand across his face, frustration burning beneath his skin. "She refused to tell me anything," he said. "And I kept pushing, until she shut down completely." Darlene shook her head. "No, she didn't shut down. She protected you." The words hit him harder than he expected. "She thought she was saving you from something," Darlene continued. "I could see it in the way she carried herself. Like she'd lived a whole life before she even met you. A dangerous one." Zayden looked down at his phone again. Dangerous. Yes, that was the right word. A woman doesn't react to shadows unless the shadows once chased her. The blogs were spinning their nonsense. Affairs, money grabs, publicity stunts. But Zayden knew Aria better than that. She hated attention. She hated being seen. She hated cameras, crowds, and anything that made her visible. And yet she was now trending all over social media with one of the most recognizable heiresses in the South. That wasn't Aria's choice. It was a warning. "Something's wrong," he said finally. "I can feel it." Darlene squeezed his arm. "You're right. She's terrified. And whoever she's scared of, they're close." Zayden's breath tightened. The thought that Aria was in danger made every muscle in his body coil. He picked up the phone one more time. "Do you think she'll come to you?" Darlene asked. "No," he replied. She'll run before she asks for help. Then you'll have to be the one to find her, she whispered. He nodded slowly, a decision forming inside him. A steady, burning resolve. He had let her go once, believing he was respecting her wishes, but now he understood the truth. Aria didn't ask for distance. She asked for safety, and she was still running. He opened the paparazzi photo again and studied it, not just her expression this time, but the background. Reflections in windows, angles of the sidewalk, the shape of a dark figure watching from behind a parked car. Something icy slid through his chest. Someone else was there. Someone close enough to know her schedule. Someone watching her without her noticing. Zayden felt the shift inside him. Subtle but decisive. If someone was hunting Aria, then he was hunting them. He stood up, reached for his coat, and grabbed his keys without another word. Darlene didn't stop him. She only whispered the truth he already knew. Find her before they do. Zayden stepped into the elevator, the Atlanta skyline glaring back at him through the glass. His jaw tightened, his heart hammered with something he hadn't felt since the day she left. Purpose. The elevator doors closed, sealing the moment with a quiet metallic click. A quiet click that sounded far too much like the beginning of a war. Morning sunlight slid across the glass storefronts of Buckhead like liquid gold, bouncing off every polished surface and every luxury car that lined Peachtree Road. Atlanta was awake, loud, restless, and already deep in gossip over the photo they hadn't even seen yet, because someone was about to take it. Aria stepped out of the law office, her steps quiet, her shoulders tucked inward as though she could fold herself into something smaller and less noticeable. She moved like a woman trying not to disturb the air around her, as if silence could function as protection. But today, silence wouldn't save her. Her phone buzzed. Another unknown number. She didn't open it. Not here. Not in daylight. Not where eyes watched her from every angle. She crossed Peachtree Road, keeping her head down. Atlanta usually ignored her, and that was the point. Blending in, disappearing into the rhythm of a city too busy to care. But today, even the air felt off. Too sharp. Too aware of her presence. Then a voice cut through the morning crowd. Hey, aren't you the woman who signed the Mercer divorce without a fight? Aria froze. The voice wasn't hostile. It was amused. Playful. She turned slowly. Nova Ellington stood there, dressed in black athleisure that cost more than a month's salary for most people in the city. Her sunglasses perched on top of her head, hair coiled into a high, effortless bun, and her expression sharp with curiosity. Aria swallowed. This was the last person she needed attention from. Nova Ellington was chaos wrapped in privilege. Everyone watched her. Everyone talked about her. Everyone photographed her. Being beside Nova meant exposure. Exposure meant danger. I think you've mistaken me for someone else, Aria murmured. Nova smiled. Not a friendly smile, but an interested one. Oh, I know exactly who you are, she said. People don't forget the ex-wife who walked away from a man like Zayden Mercer without taking a dime. That's unheard of. Aria's pulse jumped. She hated when strangers talked about her divorce like it was entertainment. Nova tilted her head, studying her. You look like you're carrying a storm in your chest. You okay? Aria stiffened. Being seen felt like being touched. Nova stepped closer, lowering her voice. Look, I don't usually talk to people on sidewalks, or anywhere without a reservation. A faint smirk. But you look like someone who needs a witness, someone to stand next to you so nobody tries anything stupid. The words hit Aria harder than they should have. Why would anyone try something? Aria asked quietly, almost cautiously. Nova shrugged. Women who hide that hard usually aren't hiding from nothing. A beat of silence filled the space between them. Then Nova added, Come with me, just for a few minutes. Aria shook her head. I shouldn't be seen with you. Oh, trust me, Nova replied. Nobody gets seen unless I want them to be. Before Aria could step away, Nova gently looped her arm through hers. Light, but firm. "Come on," Nova said. "Just a little shopping. You look like someone who forgot what breathing feels like." Against all logic, Araya didn't pull away. Maybe it was exhaustion. Maybe it was loneliness. Or maybe it was the strange instinctive understanding that Nova wasn't just intruding. She was intervening. They walked into a boutique. The moment the door opened, the cameras clicked. Flashbulbs burst from outside. Voices shouted Nova's name, and Araya knew. Every protective layer she built was crumbling, fast and publicly. Nova didn't flinch. She held her head high, almost daring the world to keep watching. Araya, on the other hand, froze under the weight of sudden visibility. In the middle of that moment, while the world captured her face from 10 angles, her phone buzzed again. She opened the message this time. "Stay visible. It's the only thing keeping you alive." Her stomach dropped. Nova glanced at her. "You okay?" Araya didn't answer. She couldn't, because visibility was the one thing she never wanted, and now it was her only protection. Outside, across the street, someone stood perfectly still among the crowd, watching her, not Nova. A figure too calm, too familiar, too patient. And when the reflection of the boutique window shifted just enough, she recognized the shape of the man's stance. Cortez Red's men always waited like that. Still, silent, never blinking. Araya's breath thinned. Nova didn't notice. The world didn't notice. But Araya knew. Someone from her past had followed her to Atlanta. Someone waiting for the moment she slipped. The camera flash lit her face again, soft, then harsh, then blinding. She forced a smile. The kind of smile a hunted woman wears when she realizes hiding is no longer an option. Night drifted over Atlanta like a velvet curtain, heavy and slow, dimming the noise of the city but never silencing it. Araya walked briskly toward her apartment, clutching a small paper bag Nova insisted she take home. She didn't remember half the things they bought. The day felt like a blur wrapped in static, unwanted attention, flashing cameras, and the cold certainty that someone from her past had been close enough to touch her if they wanted. She stepped inside her apartment and locked the door quickly. 1 lock, 2, 3. Her breath eased only a little, not enough to settle the tremor in her hands. Silence filled the room, her favorite kind, the kind she usually found comfort in. But tonight, it felt too thin, too fragile, as if danger could pierce through the walls at any moment. Her phone vibrated on the table again. Another message. Not from Nova. Not from Zayden. Not from any number a normal life would produce. "Brooklyn never forgot you." She stared at the words until they blurred. The past she had buried beneath a new name, a new city, a new life. It was clawing its way back. Araya walked to the kitchen, pouring a glass of water with shaky fingers. She forced herself to sip slowly, grounding herself in the simple act of swallowing. But memories were impatient things. They rose fast and sharp. Brooklyn. Summer nights filled with arguments behind closed doors. Her father's voice. Warm one day and distant the next. Cortez Red smiling too kindly, too knowingly. The way he watched her as if she were a pawn he planned to move when the time was right. And then, the night everything cracked open. She'd been 17 the first time she realized her family's world was built on deals whispered in back rooms, on loyalty that meant obedience, on alliances disguised as friendships. She had grown up thinking power protected people. Instead, she learned it consumed them. Her father, Gideon Blackwood, was respected in Brooklyn, feared even, but he always kept Araya away from the darker side of the Blackwood legacy. He shielded her until he couldn't. The night she overheard Cortez Red telling her father, "You can't protect her forever." The night her father's voice broke in a way she had never heard before. The night Araya understood she wasn't a daughter in their world. She was leverage. She tightened her grip on the glass until her fingers ached. When her father died months later, the official report called it a heart attack, a sudden, tragic loss. But the truth lived beneath every whispered conversation, every avoidance, every look filled with guilt instead of grief. Cortez stepped into her father's place too smoothly, too confidently, as if he had been waiting for the opening all along. And her older brother, Malik followed Cortez like a shadow, willing, loyal, eager to carve a place for himself in the wrong man's future. Araya knew even then that she needed to get out. Her mother was gone. Her father was dead. Her brother had chosen a side she could never stand beside. Staying meant becoming part of a world she wanted no part of. So she ran. She built a new name. Araya Cole. A new home. Atlanta. A new life. Quiet. Invisible. Safe. Until Zayden. Until love found her and made her want to stay. Until fear made her leave him to protect him. And now, Cortez had found her trail again, after all these years. Her phone buzzed once more. She forced herself to look. "You owe the Blackwood debt. You don't get to walk away this time." Her legs nearly gave out. It wasn't just Cortez. Someone else had joined him. Someone who knew every detail of who she used to be. Someone who understood her hiding patterns. Someone who could predict her next move before she even made it. Someone with the same blood she had tried to escape. Her brother, Malik. She set the phone down gently, as if moving too fast would make everything collapse. Her heartbeat fluttered like it was trying to break free from her chest. She whispered to herself, a confession to an empty room. "I can't go back there." But deep down, she knew the truth. Brooklyn had already come to her, and the more the world watched her through Nova's lens, the closer the danger circled, calculating, patient, inevitable. A knock shattered the silence. Slow, heavy, intentional. Araya froze. Another knock. Then stillness. She didn't move, didn't breathe, didn't dare. Her phone lit up. A new message. "Open the door, Araya." Her blood turned to ice, because the sender wasn't Cortez. It wasn't Malik. It was a number she recognized. A number she once memorized without meaning to. Zayden. Araya stood frozen in the doorway of her own life. Breath caught between fear and the memory of a man she never truly left. Her fingers trembled as she reached for the lock. Slow, hesitant, almost unwilling to confirm the truth waiting on the other side. She opened the door only a few inches. Zayden Mercer stood there, tall, composed, eyes dark with questions he'd been holding for far too long. For a moment, neither of them spoke. Zayden wasn't the kind of man who looked unsure, but tonight uncertainty pressed against his features. He studied her face like he was memorizing every fragile part of her, every shake in her breath, every flicker of fear she tried to hide. He didn't push his way in. He didn't demand answers. He simply said her name, quietly. Araya. Her entire body felt like a thread pulled too tight. She forced her voice to steady. "You shouldn't be here." "I know," he said. "But you're in trouble." Araya's heart clenched. He didn't say it like an accusation. He said it like a truth he wished he never had to speak aloud. Zayden glanced over her shoulder at the dark apartment, noticing the locked windows, the untouched dinner on the counter, the tension stitched into the air. "This isn't about the photo," he said, "or Nova Ellington, or any of the nonsense people are saying." She swallowed hard. "I don't know what you're talking about." He stepped closer, not enough to threaten, but enough to make it impossible to hide the shaking in her hands. "You do," he murmured. "You always did." Araya looked away. Distance had kept him safe. She had built her entire survival on that one fragile boundary, keeping him out of the part of her life that carried danger like a second skin. But Zayden pressed gently, the way only he could. "Someone followed you today." Her breath faltered. He saw it, the truth flickering across her eyes like a confession she never spoke. "I saw the photo," he said. "Not the one on blogs. The raw ones. The angles that never got posted." Her stomach twisted. "There was a man in the background," he continued. "He wasn't looking at Nova. He wasn't looking at the cameras. He was watching you." Araya stepped back instinctively, gripping the edge of the door. Zayden didn't move. He lowered his voice. "Who is he?" She shook her head. "Nobody. You're imagining things." "Araya," he said softly. "You're shaking." She closed her eyes. She hated how easily he could see through her. He hated that he still cared enough to read every quiet fracture in her expression. Zayden finally spoke the question that hung between them for years. Why did you leave the marriage the way you did? A silence filled the doorway. Thick, painful, full of unspoken pieces that never found their place. Aria whispered. It was safer. For who? Zayden asked. For you or for me? She didn't answer. He took a slow breath, trying to control the emotion rising behind his stern composure. You think I don't remember the things you never said? The nights you woke up terrified? The way you flinched when certain numbers called your phone? His voice softened. I knew something was wrong, but you never let me in. Aria felt tears burn the back of her eyes. The kind she wasn't allowed to show. The kind that carried heartbreak and exhaustion and the truth she had carried alone. She tried to close the door. Zayden caught it, not forcefully, but with a grip that refused to let the moment end. Aria, he said, voice low. Someone is watching your building. Her breath cracked. He continued, steady but urgent. A white sedan parked across the street. Same car from the background of the photo. Same man. Her pulse stuttered in fear. Don't tell me it's nothing, Zayden said. I'm not leaving you here alone. She tried to protest. She couldn't. Not when she saw the truth in his eyes. Fear not for himself, but for her. Zayden took a step past the threshold. Not barging in, not pushing, just entering enough to shield her from the open hallway. I don't care what happened in Brooklyn, he said. I don't care what you're hiding. I care that someone is hunting you. Aria's voice cracked. You don't understand. This isn't your fight. Yes, he replied quietly. It is. It always was. She finally opened her mouth to deny it, to push him away, to keep him safe. But she never got the chance. A shadow moved outside the window, slow, deliberate, watching. Zayden saw it first. His jaw tightened. Pack a bag, he said. You're not staying here. Aria's breath trembled. The past she escaped was standing outside her building. And now Zayden, the man she left to protect, was stepping directly into the danger she tried to keep from him. By morning, the city had decided what to believe about Aria Cole. Some called her a strategist. Some called her a traitor. Most called her a woman cashing in on the Mercer name. But none of them knew the truth. None of them knew what it meant to live with a past sharp enough to cut through years of silence. Aria woke with her heart already racing, as if her dreams had carried danger into the daylight. She sat on the edge of the bed Zayden insisted she use, inside his secure midtown penthouse, far from the apartment she once called home, far from the walls that now felt infiltrated by shadows. She rubbed her temples, trying to breathe through the panic. She hadn't slept, not really. Every time she closed her eyes, she imagined footsteps outside her door, imagined Cortez's men standing at the corner of her street, imagined Malik, her own brother, waiting for the moment she slipped. She didn't want Zayden involved. She didn't want him pulled back into a war he didn't even know existed. But he wasn't giving her a choice anymore. Zayden entered the room quietly, setting a steaming cup of tea on the nightstand. He didn't speak at first. He didn't pressure her. He just stood there long enough for her to gather herself. You're trending, he finally said. Aria looked up sharply. Trending? Yes. He handed her his phone. This is the world we live in. One photo and they think they own your story. She scrolled slowly at first, then faster, then stopped. Her face, captured beside Nova Ellington, filled every blog, every gossip page, every entertainment feed. Headlines screamed, Nova Ellington seen with mysterious divorcee. Business alliance? Aria Cole, from silent ex-wife to power player? The woman who walked away from Mercer money reappears with Millionaire Heiress. Who is Aria Cole? Why was she afraid? Her stomach twisted. The world wasn't just watching. It was dissecting, analyzing every step she took, every expression on her face, every moment she thought she was invisible. The visibility she never wanted was now her only shield. Her phone buzzed. Again and again. At first, she ignored it, but the frequency became too steady, too deliberate. She finally picked it up. Unknown. Number. Stay in the spotlight, Araya. I told you. Visibility keeps you alive. Another message followed immediately. Disappear, and we collect. Her throat tightened. Zayden saw her expression shift. What is it? She put the phone face down. Nothing. Araya. She hated how her name sounded in his voice. Gentle, patient, determined. It made it harder to lie, harder to protect him by pushing him away. He sat beside her. You're not alone anymore. Stop pretending you are. Araya exhaled shakily. You think this is just some threat? You think this is something we can handle in Atlanta? Then tell me what it is. Silence settled between them, heavy, suffocating, familiar. She shook her head. I can't. You can, he said softly. You just don't want me pulled into it. Her heart stuttered. That was exactly it. Zayden's hand brushed the edge of hers, not quite touching, but close enough that she felt the warmth of it. You left me without a word, he said. I told myself you needed space, but I see now, you were protecting something. She looked away. This isn't only about me, she whispered. If I tell you, you become a target, and I already destroyed one life trying to run. I won't destroy yours. Zayden's voice steadied into something unshakable. You didn't destroy anything. And whoever is coming after you, they'll have to get through me first. Araya's chest tightened with something painful and bittersweet. There was no world where Zayden understood the scale of what was following her. No world where he understood what Cortez Red was capable of. And yet, she felt the smallest sense of safety she hadn't felt since she was 17. But that safety was temporary. A moment later, the doorbell rang. 3 sharp chimes. Araya stiffened instantly. No, she whispered. It's too soon. They wouldn't. Zayden stood slowly. That's not someone dangerous. Dangerous people don't knock. He walked toward the front door. Araya stepped into the hallway behind him, heart pounding. Zayden opened the door, and there she was, Nova Ellington, dressed impeccably, sunglasses on, a phone in one hand, a coffee in the other. Looking like she had stopped by simply because she felt like it, she stepped inside without waiting for permission. Well, Nova said, examining the penthouse, I see you're hiding her in style. Araya's voice trembled. Nova, what are you doing here? I saved your life yesterday, Nova said, dropping her bag on the sofa. So I figured I should check if you're still breathing. Zayden crossed his arms. You shouldn't be here. Oh, please, Nova replied. If the wrong people are watching her, they already know where she is. She was photographed next to me, remember? They always track my locations. Araya felt dizzy. Nova pulled out her phone, scrolling casually. Oh, and by the way, she added, a reporter is digging into your background. First Brooklyn, then Blackwood. Now they're asking questions you won't want answered. Araya's world went cold. Nova looked up at her, eyes sharp, almost sympathetic. Your past isn't hiding anymore, she said, and neither are the people looking for you. Araya sank into the nearest chair, breath leaving her in a rush. Nova sat across from her. Zayden stood between them. 3 people, each aware that the world had shifted around them, pulling them into the center of a story none of them could escape. Araya whispered, They're coming. Nova answered, They already came. Zayden's voice cut through the panic. Then we get ahead of them. And in that moment, for the first time since Brooklyn, Araya wasn't running alone. By late afternoon, the sky over Atlanta dimmed into a soft gray, as if the city itself sensed something tightening in the air. Araya sat in the back seat of Zayden's car as he drove through quiet residential streets, away from the downtown traffic, away from Buckhead crowds, toward a place she had avoided ever since the divorce. Darlene Mercer's home. A small, warm brick house tucked behind tall magnolias. Nothing like the showy mansions people expected from the Mercer name. Darlene hated excess. She preferred gentle spaces, rooms filled with soft light, and the type of furniture that smelled like linen and lavender. A refuge. At least it had always been for Aria, until she left without a goodbye. She swallowed hard as Zayden parked in the driveway. "You don't have to come inside," he said quietly. She nodded, but her hands remained motionless in her lap. He added, "She asked about you this morning." Aria's heart stung. Darlene had been the closest thing to a mother she'd had since her teens. She wasn't sure she deserved that kind of care anymore. Zayden opened his door and stepped out. Aria hesitated for a few seconds before following him, letting the familiar scent of magnolia drift around her as she approached the porch. Zayden knocked gently. The door opened almost immediately. Darlene stood there, frail, thinner than Aria remembered, but still radiating the same warmth she carried through every hardship of her life. Her silver hair was tied loosely at the nape of her neck. Her eyes, soft but sharp, widened the moment she saw Aria. "My girl," Darlene whispered. Aria's throat tightened instantly. She didn't trust her voice, so she stepped forward and let Darlene pull her into an embrace. This close, Aria could feel the fragility in the older woman's body. She leaned in carefully, afraid to squeeze too hard. When Darlene finally stepped back, she cupped Aria's face with trembling hands. "You left without letting me hold you," she said. "But you're here now. That's enough." Aria blinked fast, fighting the sting in her eyes. "I didn't want to bring trouble here," she said softly. Darlene's smile faded. "You didn't bring trouble," Darlene murmured. "Trouble followed you." Zayden exhaled quietly, as if he knew what was coming. Darlene led them inside, settling into her favorite chair by the window. Aria sat across from her, feeling like the room held memories she wasn't ready to face. The walls still held photos of Zayden's childhood, old family gatherings, and quiet moments filled with laughter Aria once belonged to. Darlene studied her a long moment. "You've been running," she said finally. Aria nodded, unable to deny it. "Since I was 18. "That's a long time to carry fear," Darlene replied. Aria lowered her gaze. "It wasn't supposed to reach Atlanta." "Fear doesn't respect borders," Darlene said gently. "And evil doesn't forget ambition." Aria's chest tightened. The older woman knew more than she let on. "Someone contacted you," Aria said quietly. Darlene inhaled slowly. "Yes." A cold shiver ran through Aria's spine. "What did they say?" Darlene hesitated, not because she was afraid of Aria, but because she knew speaking their involvement would wound her deeply. "A man called," Darlene said. "He said he was an old family friend. He asked if you were doing well. I didn't recognize the voice, but when I asked his name..." She paused. Zayden stepped forward. "Mom, what name?" Darlene's frail fingers curled around the arm of her chair. "He said Red." Aria's heartbeat stopped, then returned as a sharp, painful thud, her worst fear, confirmed in a whisper. "Cortez," she breathed. Darlene nodded slowly, watching Aria's face with the kind of tenderness only someone who loved her could carry. "He asked if you ever talked about your father," Darlene said. "He asked if you still remembered him." A cold silence filled the room. Zayden clenched his jaw. "He shouldn't know where you live, Mom." Darlene's eyes flicked toward him. "He doesn't. He only asked questions." Aria shut her eyes. Questions today meant presents tomorrow, and presents tomorrow meant danger creeping closer than she ever wanted. Darlene leaned forward, voice soft but steady. "Aria, listen to me. Whatever you're running from, it's not finished, and if you think staying silent protects people, you're wrong." Tears gathered behind Aria's eyes. "You can't protect us by disappearing," Darlene whispered. "You protect us by telling the truth." Zayden's gaze rested on Aria, waiting. Aria wanted to speak, She wanted to break open the years she spent burying her past, but her voice cracked under the weight of it. Darlene, if I tell you everything, I can't take it back. Darlene reached out her trembling hand and placed it over Araya's. My child, she said, your past doesn't scare me. What scares me is you trying to face it alone. Araya inhaled a trembling breath. I wasn't running from a mistake, she whispered. I was running from a man who doesn't stop until he owns everything he touches. Darlene didn't flinch. Zayden didn't blink. And for the first time in years, Araya spoke the name she feared most. Cortez read. Darlene nodded slowly, as if she'd expected it. But then she said something Araya wasn't prepared for. I don't think you're running from just him, Darlene said softly. I think you're running from someone who knows you even better. Araya stiffened. Darlene's gaze didn't waver. He said, she whispered. Tell Araya her brother sends his regards. Araya's breath shattered into silence. Her world, her past, her blood, had finally found her. The sun had dipped low by the time Araya and Zayden left Darlene's house. Evening shadows spilled across the quiet neighborhood, stretching long and thin across the pavement like reaching hands. Araya pulled her coat tighter around herself, though the air wasn't cold. It was the kind of chill that lived under the skin, the kind that memory carried. Zayden unlocked the car door, but before she could step inside, he paused. His eyes narrowed toward the street, tracking something only instinct could detect. Araya followed his gaze. A white sedan, parked 2 houses down, engine off. Windows tinted too dark for daylight, let alone dusk. Her pulse quickened. That's the same car, Zayden murmured. The one outside your apartment. Araya swallowed hard. He found me. Zayden opened the passenger door for her. Get in. She hesitated. Zayden. Get in. His tone wasn't harsh. It was protective, controlled. A tone shaped by the kind of danger he'd never imagined but now refused to ignore. Araya slid into the seat, locking the door as soon as she sat down. Her heart thudded against her ribs, too loud in her ears. Zayden walked around to the driver's side, but his eyes never left the sedan. The car didn't move, didn't flash its lights, didn't show any sign of life. But Araya knew better. Stillness meant patience. Patience meant intention, and intention meant danger. Zayden started the engine and pulled away slowly, giving the impression he was merely leaving, nothing more. But Araya could see the tension in his jaw, the subtle tightness in his grip on the wheel. She watched the side mirror. The sedan didn't follow, at least not immediately. For a moment, she let herself breathe. But danger didn't like being ignored. It followed when it wanted to. It attacked when it chose. They reached Zayden's midtown penthouse just as night settled fully. Traffic hummed below. Neon lights flickered across wet asphalt. And the city pulsed with a restless energy. Inside, Araya felt a momentary illusion of safety. The penthouse was secured with every modern system, every lock, every alarm. Nothing like her modest apartment. But safety could be broken, especially by people who didn't need doors. Araya walked to the window, watching the city glow. She tried to steady her breath, tried to believe she still had a chance at escaping the past that chased her across states. Zayden approached quietly. You're not alone in this. You hear me? She nodded, though fear still curled like smoke through her chest. He turned away to grab his phone. That was when she heard it. The soft, unmistakable click of metal meeting metal. Her body reacted before her mind. She grabbed Zayden's arm. Someone's inside. He froze. The sound came again, closer this time. A whisper against the silence, a presence shifting where there shouldn't be one. Zayden stepped in front of her instinctively, positioning his body between hers and the hallway. Then, a shadow moved across the wall. Tall, slow, deliberate. Araya's breath hitched. She knew that stance. She had seen that posture years ago in Brooklyn. Men positioned like pillars, immovable, loyal to Cortez. Zayden moved toward the kitchen, reaching for anything he could use as a weapon. He stopped at a heavy metal candlestick, gripping it tightly. The shadow approached. Araya whispered his name. Zayden. But the figure didn't hesitate. He stepped fully into the living room light. A mask covered his face. Black clothes swallowed his silhouette. His hands gloved, one reaching into his coat. Aria's stomach dropped. Zayden. Move! The intruder lunged forward, pulling something metallic from his jacket. Zayden swung the candlestick with instinctive force, striking the man's wrist. The object clattered across the hardwood. Not a gun. A blade. Short, sharp, designed for close contact. The intruder threw a punch. Zayden blocked it, but the blow pushed him back a step. Araya stumbled away from the fight, heart pounding so fiercely she could taste metal in her mouth. The intruder regained balance, reaching again for the fallen blade. Araya didn't think. She grabbed a glass vase from the table and hurled it at the man. It shattered against his arm, staggering him long enough for Zayden to slam him into the wall. "Who sent you?" Zayden demanded, voice raw. No answer. The man grunted, twisting sharply to break free. He darted toward the balcony as if he'd memorized the layout, as if he'd been inside before. He kicked the door open, shattered the lock, and slipped into the night, climbing down the fire escape with terrifying speed. Zayden ran to the balcony, but the man had already vanished into the maze of city streets below. Araya stood trembling in the middle of the room, hands pressed to her chest, breath uneven and sharp. Zayden turned back toward her, eyes blazing. "This is what you've been hiding?" he demanded. Not with anger, with fear. Araya tried to speak. She couldn't. Not until she saw the object the intruder dropped on the floor. A small metal pendant. Old, engraved. A Blackwood crest. Her family crest. Twisted into a warning. Zayden picked it up slowly. "What is this?" he asked. Araya's voice finally broke free, barely audible. "They found me." Her hands shook harder. "And they're not going to stop." The hours after the attack passed in a thick, uneasy silence. Zayden replaced the shattered balcony lock, checked the windows twice, and walked the length of the penthouse as if expecting another shadow to slip through the walls. Araya sat curled on the far end of the couch, knees pulled to her chest, each breath a fragile attempt to hold herself together. The Blackwood crest sat on the coffee table between them, small, cold, glinting under the soft light. A symbol she once saw on every wall in her childhood home. A symbol she spent years trying to forget. Zayden stared at it with a hard, unreadable expression. "That intruder didn't come to scare you," he said quietly. "He came to take you." Araya nodded. "I know. Then it's time you tell me everything." She closed her eyes, whispering into the dark behind her lids. "I can't put you in this." Zayden's voice sharpened. "You already did." Before she could respond, the elevator dinged. Both of them shot to their feet. Araya's heart leapt painfully. Too soon. Too dangerous. Too unpredictable. She backed toward the kitchen, pulse racing. Zayden moved to shield her without even thinking. The elevator doors opened. Nova Ellington strode out as if she owned the building. Araya released a shaky breath she didn't realize she was holding. Nova raised one eyebrow. "Relax. If someone was coming to kill you, they wouldn't ring the elevator like they're dropping off groceries." Zayden exhaled sharply. "Nova, this isn't the time." "Oh, it's exactly the time," Nova said, tossing her bag onto the counter. "I heard what happened." Zayden stiffened. "How?" Nova pulled out her phone. "Because your building has 3 security flaws. I just exploited one of them." He glared. "Nova?" She held up a hand. "Not the point." Araya watched Nova's movements carefully. She wasn't frantic. She wasn't afraid. She moved with the awareness of someone used to danger, someone who navigated the world assuming threats existed even in luxury. Nova finally met Araya's eyes. "Tell me what he said." Araya hesitated. Nova softened her tone. Not gentle, but genuine. "You don't have to hide from me." Araya's voice came out small. "He left a crest." Nova's brow furrowed. "Blackwood?" "Yes." Nova's face changed in an instant. Not shock. Recognition. As if she'd heard the name before. Araya's breath caught. You know it. Nova avoided the question by looking at the crest on the table. This isn't something random, she said. Cortez is making a statement. Zayden's jaw tightened. You keep saying that name. Who is he? Araya wrapped her arms around herself, feeling the weight of years pressing against her ribcage. Nova answered before Araya could. He's the kind of man who builds loyalty by destroying freedom. The kind who owns people instead of businesses. Zayden turned to Araya. You told her? Araya shook her head. No. Nova shrugged. I ran into him once, in Manhattan. Tried to buy part of my family's foundation. He doesn't play clean. Araya's breath unsteady. He doesn't play anything. He takes. Nova stepped closer to her. And now he's taking interest in you again. Zayden crossed his arms. If she's in danger, then we're ending this. Nova let out a humorless laugh. Zayden, you can't end Cortez Red. He's not a scandal you shut down with a press statement. No, Zayden replied, but I can protect Araya. Nova eyed him. Protection isn't enough anymore. The room fell into a deep, charged silence. Araya felt her throat tighten. She didn't want Zayden anywhere near this. She didn't want Nova dragged deeper. But she also knew something neither of them fully understood yet. Danger wasn't circling. It was closing in. Nova walked to the window, scanning the city below. He's here, she said softly. Not in Atlanta as a rumor. Here. Araya's heart skipped. Zayden asked, How do you know? Because Cortez doesn't send small signals. Nova glanced back at Araya. A crest isn't a warning. It's a countdown. Araya felt cold settle under her skin. A countdown meant one thing. Cortez wasn't just coming after her. He was preparing to take something more than her life. He wanted control. He wanted leverage. He wanted to pull her back into the world she escaped so he could use her name, her history, and her silence. Nova turned fully to Araya. There's something else, she said quietly. Someone else. Araya forced the words out. My brother. Zayden looked between them. He's part of this? Araya nodded. He was always loyal to Cortez, Nova added. And loyal people become dangerous fast. Araya sat down slowly, body hollow with dread. She whispered, Malik didn't just follow Cortez. He inherited everything my father left behind. And he thinks I ran out on the family. Zayden didn't hesitate. Then he's part of the reason you're being hunted. Aria's eyes filled with fear she couldn't hide. Malik wasn't just part of it, he wanted her return. He believed she owed a debt to the family name, a debt Cortez planned to collect. Nova leaned against the counter, arms crossed. We need to get ahead of them, she said, and we're not doing that sitting here waiting for the next attack. Zayden stared at Araya, his voice firm. Tell us everything. No more secrets. Araya closed her eyes, letting the truth rise like a weight she could no longer carry alone. My family wasn't just wealthy, she whispered. They were connected. And when my father died, Cortez stepped in as if he owned us. I was valuable. I knew things I shouldn't. And when I tried to leave, he made Malik choose. Zayden's voice lowered. Choose between who? Between being my brother, she said, or being Cortez's heir. A tear escaped down her cheek. And he chose Cortez. Nova spoke quietly. Then he won't stop. Not until you're back under their control. Araya looked up at both of them, Zayden with his steady strength, Nova with her sharp certainty. She realized then, this wasn't going to be a fight she could survive alone. This wasn't a threat that would fade if she hid. This wasn't fear she could outrun. This was war. One her bloodline started. One she would have to finish. Zayden placed a hand on the table beside her. We handle this together, Nova added, and we start now. Araya inhaled a trembling breath. Her past had arrived. Her allies had chosen their sides, and the countdown had already begun. Night settled over Atlanta with the weight of a storm cloud, thick and humming with the kind of pressure that warned something was about to break. Aria paced the length of the living room, her arms wrapped tightly around herself as if she were trying to hold her body in place to keep from unraveling. Xaden and Nova watched her quietly, each on opposite ends of the room, both aware that whatever came next wasn't going to be simple, wasn't going to be safe, and wasn't going to let them walk away untouched. A buzz echoed from the coffee table. Aria froze. Her phone lit up with a new message. No name, no number, just a notification from an encrypted app she hadn't used in years. Xaden stepped forward. "You don't have to open that." Aria shook her head. "If it's from who I think it is, I don't have a choice." Her fingers trembled as she unlocked the phone. The message opened instantly, a single line of text glowing in the dim room. "Little sister, you're late." Aria's breath left her in a single sharp exhale. Her knees felt weak, her vision blurred for a moment. Malik. He had found her phone, found her location, found her. Xaden's voice lowered. "What does it say?" She handed him the phone without speaking. Xaden read the message, jaw tightening with every second. Nova stepped closer. "Is that him?" Aria nodded. "Yes." "But how did he get this app?" Xaden asked. "It's not an app you download," Aria whispered. "It's a link you're given. Once. And only by someone you owe a debt." Nova muttered under her breath. "So he's reaching out as family." "No," Aria said softly. "He's reaching out as the man replacing our father." The phone buzzed again. Another message. "Since you refuse to come home, I'll bring home to you." Aria's heart slammed against her ribs. Xaden grabbed the phone instantly. "Who does he mean? What is that?" His words broke off when a third message appeared. This one wasn't text. It was a photo. Aria's lungs locked. Darlene, sitting in her living room, looking confused, alive, but not alone. Behind her stood a man in a dark jacket, no mask, no attempt to hide his face. He wanted them to see him. Nova cursed under her breath. "He's sending a message." "No," Aria whispered. "He's sending a threat." Xaden stared at the photo, his face shifting from shock to fury so quickly Aria barely saw the transition. "He went after my mother?" Xaden's voice shook with something unfamiliar, something dangerous. Aria grabbed his arm. "No, listen. Malik wouldn't hurt her." "He's not Cortez." "That doesn't matter," Xaden snapped. "He's using her as leverage." Nova stepped forward, planting herself between both of them. "Let's think before we act," Nova said firmly. "If Malik wanted Darlene dead, he wouldn't send a photo first." "That's supposed to make me feel better?" Xaden shot back. "No, it's supposed to tell you what kind of game he's playing." Aria's voice trembled. "Malik doesn't attack without reason. He warns, then he takes." "Not today," Xaden said through clenched teeth. "Not my mother." He reached for his car keys. "No." Aria blocked his path. "That's exactly what Malik wants. He wants you to run, to panic, to walk straight into a place he controls." Xaden's breath came in hard, uneven bursts. "He has my mother." Aria looked directly into his eyes. "And if you walk out that door without a plan, he'll have you too." Nova folded her arms. "She's right. Malik doesn't want blood yet. He wants compliance. And right now, Aria is the piece he's trying to move across the board." Xaden pressed a hand to his forehead, exhaling hard. "So what do we do?" he asked. Nova's eyes sharpened. "I make a call." Aria blinked. "To who?" Nova stepped away, dialing a number she apparently knew by memory. "A friend," Nova said. "Someone whose family owes mine favors." She raised the phone to her ear. When the line connected, her voice changed. Smooth, calm, businesslike. "Yeah, it's me. I need eyes on a house in Westview. Discreet." Now. The person on the other end spoke. Nova nodded slowly. Good, she said. Text me the moment you see anything. She hung up. Araya whispered. Is she safe? Nova replied. As safe as someone can be when the people watching her want something. Zayden turned toward the window, eyes fixed on the blurred lights of the city below. Malik wants Araya, he said slowly. But why now? Why after all this time? Aria's answer came from a place she tried to bury. But tonight, everything buried had clawed its way back. Because our father's estate is being contested, Araya whispered. He needs me to legitimize it. Zayden turned sharply. You never said that. I never wanted to be part of it. I left that life. I left everything. Nova nodded, her expression serious. It makes sense. Cortez owns Malik, and Malik needs Araya. They're pulling her back in because something big is happening behind closed doors. Zayden shook his head. No. They're not taking her anywhere. Nova responded quietly. They already started. The room fell silent, heavy enough to press against their chests. Then Aria's phone buzzed again. A fourth message. This one chilled her blood. Midnight tonight, Ari. Come alone. Or she pays the debt. Araya's knees buckled. Zayden caught her before she could fall. Nova stepped forward. This is it, she murmured. The trap. Araya's voice cracked. He has Darlene. Because of me. No, Zayden said, pulling her closer. He has her because he thinks he can control you. He's wrong. Araya's tears fell silently. Midnight wasn't far, and Malik wasn't bluffing. The minutes before midnight crawled with the slow dread of something irreversible. Araya stood at the window of Zayden's penthouse, watching the city glow below her. Bright, careless, alive, while her world tightened around a single, impossible truth. Malik had taken Darlene, and he wanted her in return. Zayden paced behind her, restless and furious, every step carrying the weight of a man who refused to be helpless. Nova stood near the counter, tapping her phone, receiving updates without sharing them aloud. Her expression gave nothing away. Too calm, too focused, too familiar with the mechanics of power plays. Araya finally spoke. I have to go. Zayden stopped mid-step. No, you're not walking into that alone. He said alone, Araya whispered. If he sees you or Nova, he won't touch my mother, Zayden snapped, tension cracking through his voice. Nova stepped in. Zayden, think. He turned, eyes blazing. I am thinking. No, Nova said calmly. You're reacting. Malik is counting on that. Araya looked between them. Two people she never expected to stand beside her, drawn into danger because she couldn't outrun her bloodline. She inhaled a trembling breath. If I walk in, he'll let her go. Malik always preferred control over violence. That was before, Zayden said. People change. Araya shook her head. No, Malik doesn't change. He escalates. The clock ticked toward midnight, each second sharp as a blade. Nova finally spoke. You're not going alone. Araya turned. You didn't hear what... I heard him, Nova interrupted. And I know men like him. When they say come alone, they don't mean be alone. They mean look alone. Araya stared at her. Light dawned slowly. Zayden frowned. What are you suggesting? Nova picked up her coat. You go, she said to Araya. We follow. From a distance he won't detect. Araya hesitated. Nova, if he sees you... He won't, Nova assured her. My people know how to stay invisible. Zayden looked at Araya, chest rising and falling with anger and fear, and something deeper, something protective. I'm not letting you face him without me. You won't be, Nova said. But if you walk into that house first, you sign your own death warrant. Let her go. Let her draw the boundary. Then we move. Araya stared at the door. At midnight. At the end of every reason she ever ran. All right, she whispered. I'll go. The house in Westview looked abandoned, dark windows, peeling paint, a porch sagging slightly under its own weight. But Araya knew better. Cortez never used real danger where the world could see it. Malik, even less. They used quiet places, forgotten places. Places where memory could hide. Araya stepped onto the porch, heart pounding. She felt Zayden and Nova somewhere behind her, unseen but close. She hoped Malik couldn't sense them. She knocked once. The door opened immediately. Malik stood there, older, sharper, eyes colder than she remembered. And behind him, Darlene sat in a chair, unharmed, but pale with fear. Araya stepped inside. Malik closed the door behind her. You came, he murmured. Good. Araya forced her voice steady. Let her go. Malik smiled, slow, patient, the smile of a man who believed in his own righteousness. You left us, Ari. You left the family. You left the responsibility, but you didn't leave the debt. I left because Cortez, Malik raised a hand. Because you were afraid, he said. Because you were weak. Araya stiffened. You were supposed to take father's place, Malik continued. Not me. You had the mind, the memory, the name he trusted. Araya shook her head slowly. That's why I left. For the first time, Malik's expression cracked, anger simmering beneath the surface. He stepped closer. You are coming back, he said quietly. Tonight. No, Araya whispered. I'm not. Malik exhaled deeply, as if disappointed more than enraged. You always force my hand. He reached for something behind him. Araya tensed. The door behind them shattered inward. Zayden tackled Malik to the ground. Nova's team flooded in silently, shadows with purpose. Chaos erupted. Shouts, footsteps, movement sharp as lightning. Darlene cried out. Nova rushed to her, pulling her safely away. Malik shoved Zayden off and scrambled toward the back door. Araya reacted instantly, grabbing his arm. Don't do this, she shouted. Malik turned, eyes full of something she didn't expect. Grief. Betrayal. A twisted kind of love. You should have stayed gone, he said. Then he disappeared through the back door, slipping into the night. Just like their father once had. Just like Cortez wanted. Araya stood frozen, chest heaving, trembling from the weight of what nearly happened, and what still might. Zayden pulled her into his arms. It's over, he whispered, but she shook her head against his chest. No, it's not. Malik doesn't run unless someone orders him to. And if he ran... She looked up, eyes wide with realization. Cortez is already setting the next move. Darlene was safe. Nova's team escorted her home, posted people outside, and locked down the neighborhood so tightly, even shadows had to ask permission to move. But the victory felt hollow. Araya stood on Zayden's balcony hours later, staring out at the faint pink edge of dawn creeping over the horizon. She hugged herself tightly, the Atlanta breeze brushing against her skin like a warning. Zayden stepped beside her. You saved my mother, he murmured. Araya shook her head. No, Malik let her live. Because I came. Zayden's jaw tightened. And next time? Araya didn't answer. Because she knew the answer. So did he. He turned to face her. You're not going back to them. Araya's voice trembled. If I don't, they'll keep coming. Then we'll keep fighting, he said. We? She whispered. Zayden didn't flinch. I lost you once because I didn't understand what you were carrying. I'm not losing you again. Araya felt her breath stutter in her chest, but before she could speak, her phone buzzed. One new message, blocked number. Her hand shook as she opened it. Brooklyn, 2 days, come home. Another message followed. A photo. Her old house. Boarded windows. Dark porch. A single figure standing on the steps. Hands behind his back. Watching. Cortez read. Araya felt her knees weaken. Zayden grabbed her hand. Aria, what is it? She showed him the phone with trembling fingers. Zayden's face hardened. Nova stepped onto the balcony, reading the message over their shoulders. He's calling you back, Nova whispered. Aria nodded, breath uneven. This isn't about debt anymore. This is about control. Nova replied quietly. And if he's calling you home? Aria whispered the truth they were all afraid to say aloud. Then the real war is about to start. The sun rose slowly, painting the sky in soft colors that did nothing to calm the storm gathering beneath her skin. Cortez's message repeated in her mind like a heartbeat she couldn't escape. Come home. Aria exhaled shakily. She whispered, I'm not running anymore. She didn't know yet if she was walking toward her destruction or toward the beginning of something she should have faced years ago. But the decision was made. The war had found her, and now she was walking toward it.